Hey, it's your casual engineer slash producer here. Today we have a special guest. It's a little different than the other guests, but today we got here, who do we have?
Marcus, I'm Dillon Blevins. I'm running for state representative in the 62nd district, which is most of Clermont County minus the Amelia Bethel areas.
Okay. Politician man. So how long have you been into politics?
I've been into politics heavily since 2020. 2020 was my first campaign for state rep. I heavily got involved in politics in 2016 when Donald Trump first ran for office. I liked that he was an outsider. He's definitely not an insider. But when he came on the scene, it was so obvious to me that the inside club in the Republican Party, in the Democrat Party, and in that establishment, they did not like Trump. And it makes you wonder why. And what have we seen since 2016? I don't know. It feels like a pandemic broke out in 2020, almost as it
Right.
means to stop Trump. There's a lot of things we could go into on the pandemic.
Right. It was almost like that someone came in that couldn't be controlled, so they had to bring in other obstacles just to try to slow it down and stop. But as you've seen, things happen. So what really got you into politics?
Well, specifically this time around, uh, Marcus, you might know, but maybe the viewers don't. I own and operate my own construction company. We build decks and do outdoor living, outdoor kitchens, stuff of that nature. It keeps me very busy. It's a 70-hour work week for me every week. We're doing pretty well for ourselves. We've grown a lot over the last few years. I had no intentions of running for office again. I'm pretty focused on doing that. But we have this race where Jean Schmidt was going to be unopposed. And I waited and was waiting. There's a lot of good candidates in the area that I think should have ran, but they weren't. And anyone who knows what Jean Schmidt's been doing in the Columbus State House, they would be infuriated, especially members of the Republican Party. Jean Schmidt went straight to Columbus, worked with the Democrats, betrayed the Republicans immediately, helped them elect Jason Stevens as Speaker. And we'll get into that more. But the Republicans in Columbus are very disappointed in Jean Schmidt, and they're looking for a conservative to go into Columbus in her place. And that's what I'm offering Clermont County voters. I got into this race to offer you guys another opportunity to not be played anymore by Jean Schmidt.
Okay, so doing that's a big leap. What motivated you to really take control and then really act on how you was feeling and really go after what you believed in?
Well, I'll tell you, I learned a lot my first time around in 2020, mainly that you need a lot of money to run a campaign. In 2020, Jean Schmidt, I think, personally spent near $250,000 on her campaign. But beyond that, she was involved in a dark money pack called First Energy, which was headed by Larry Householder, who is now in prison. He's serving a 20-year prison sentence for the illegal bribes that he used in these PACs. That's what funded this PAC. And he used $250,000. Again, he's serving a prison sentence for this money to slander me and Joe Dills, who was running at the time in 2020. They sent multiple mailers. I used to have copies of them, but essentially saying Ohio voters can't trust Dillon Blevins and Joe Dills. They're young and immature, and every little past detail that she could find dirt was thrown around and smeared. And but I think the voters growing wise to this. We've had, anyways.
Yeah, media sometimes a lot of people try to throw false things into the media just to really try to get people going, and it's kind of crazy that there's complete evidence of that someone that she was working with is in prison now, and then people are still would vote for her. Like, why should they? Like, that is just preposterous.
It's because, the stuff does get covered lightly in the news, but most people have lives to live. I understand most people wake up and they work 9 to 5, maybe a lot more hours than that.
Yeah.
And maybe they're working 6, 7 days a week. It's hard for people to keep up with all the little logistics of what's going on in Columbus and in the legislature, and especially keeping up with the funds that these candidates are getting. They're getting millions of dollars from all kinds of places, and you have to do public records requests to get this information. And most citizens don't have the time to find this stuff out. So there are some watchdogs around Clermont County like Chris Hicks, and there's some, reporters around Columbus who seem to hit on this stuff. But I just think it doesn't really resonate, or the message doesn't get out sometimes. And sometimes people don't realize these things. That's why I'm running, to put this message out there that, hey, before we just put Jean Schmidt back in Columbus, we might want to consider that she's betrayed the Republican caucus multiple times. And it hurt us big time on multiple issues, both issue ones when it comes to changing the Ohio Constitution to make it a 60% threshold instead of a 50% threshold to change the Constitution, which I supported. And then also she hurt us on pro-life. She went and testified that rape was an opportunity for women who became pregnant in that situation. And I'm a Republican and I'm pro-life, but I do not believe a woman should have to carry a baby to term if she was raped and it's proven that she was raped.
Yeah.
I think that soundbite of her saying rape was an opportunity for that woman was played on nonstop advertisements. Jean Schmidt continues to hurt the Republican Party and our movements that are so important, and she's got to go.
Yeah, it seems pretty bad that someone would play both sides like that. Seems like the type of person like that would just play whatever to win and not fight for what she believe in, but just fight for whatever would make her feel good at the time. And that's really not good to have someone like that. So you say, so just knowing you from all the years, went to school with you, you're a pretty strong backbone, and it's hard to really change your mind unless it's something that you agree with. Would you say that you will always be there for the people?
I would definitely always be there for the people. Something about me is, I grew up a very modest childhood. I didn't grow up rich. I grew up modestly and from Goshen, Ohio, and I grew up with Marcus. We played football together, and Marcus knows me well, and he knows I'm a hardworking man.
Very.
And I care about the common person. I care about the people that have to work full time and are having a hard time making ends meet. I care about the single father who has that expensive child support bill. I care about that single mother who, is also trying to make ends meet, but has children to watch 40 to 60 hours, all the time.
Right.
Moms have children all the time. But, sometimes these daycares and schools aren't enough, and it's hard for them to work. And I care about the business owners in Clermont County. As a business owner, I understand the dangers and the repercussions of liberal policies.
Right. Okay. Yeah. See, I think that's very great about you, really being for the people and stuff like that. Which I like about you is that I know that you come from a modest, not rich and stuff like that, and really had to make ends meet and used to drive that broke down car and stuff like that. And yeah, and it's just really hard for people that has been born into with a silver spoon or upper level to really give the chance to hear the little people out, because a lot of times them upper people, they kind of just too into themselves, you know what I'm saying? They don't really give a chance to really look at the outside. And it's crazy how you really came from the outside and really seen the world and coming up from just a modest living to now, like, look at you about to be a politician. Because, like, back in school, I would have never thought you was going to grow up to be a politician or stuff like that. Like,
I was voted by my senior class most likely to be successful.
Okay, yeah.
Story.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I could definitely see that. Yeah, you was smart. Yeah, I definitely see that. But so with this, what are the ropes that you're going through? Has it been a lot of downfalls trying to really pursue politics? Was there a lot of no's and a lot of doors you had to bust down just to really be heard?
Yeah. So in 2020, with all of the money that was spent trashing me, it was definitely hard to get my name out. I think in 2020, I spent maybe a total of $5,000 on my campaign. I pulled over 15% of the vote, or right around 15%. It was about 3,000 votes with a very low budget campaign. I come into this campaign with much more money, much more backing from the people up in Columbus who don't want to see Jean Schmidt. So this time will be a lot more different. I'm very excited for what the next 56 days, I think, is until we vote, we'll have in store. But yes, it's hard to punch into politics. I can tell you that the insiders, the people in the in club, they're not my biggest fans. They don't want to see me thrive. They'd be scared to see me rise to a level of state rep and to be into one of the more prominent positions in the county, and they don't control me. And that's what I want to see. I won't be controlled by them. I'm not going to take bribes. Jean Schmidt took bribes from Larry Householder. She took bribes from, the Turks when she was in Congress. She's been laden with issues since the early 2000s. It's really time for just a new face in the state house representing us, who can bring a new energy. And Gene doesn't have friends up in Columbus. I don't think we want to send someone back to Columbus who's disliked. I've been talking to some of the prominent figures in Columbus in the state house and the Senate, and they support me, and they're hoping to see me succeed. So people inside the Insiders Club locally in Clermont County probably won't be so happy to see it, but it'll be a win for the people of Clermont County. Marcus said, I have a heart for the common man. I also I represent all people. I also don't think it's a sin to be rich or to be a successful business owner. And I think that is something that Democrats try to paint people who are successful business owners as evil when they wouldn't work their tail end off. I'm somebody, and I don't like to pat myself in the back too much, but I did start my business from the ground up, and I've grown it to be quite successful. We near $1 million in revenue in just our third year of operation last year. We're growing still, and I'm proud of that. I don't think it's a sin that I make good money. So and that's one thing I like about you, Marcus, is and I hope this isn't inappropriate to say, but I think there's quite a movement among Black Americans waking up from the policies that Democrats have been. Not even just the policies, but the mindset they've been preaching to Black Americans for so long.
Because it seems like no matter what, if you Black, you're kind of like born into being a Democrat. Like before I even knew what a Democrat was, I was already saying, "Oh, I'm a Democrat." But so when I started really getting into like self-development and self-empowerment and really like started to find myself and change my mindset, I started realizing that a lot of the stuff that the Democrats will really like preach is kind of stuff to really lower your energy or like just lower you as a human being, because it was like a lot of don't get me wrong, it's cool to have handouts and stuff like that.
They want you to rely on.
Yes, to make you very, very dependent. And so coming up and really trying to better yourself and be a person of stature and stuff like that, you can't really be dependent on stuff and on people and on situations. And being a business owner and someone with a business, I had to rely on myself to learn stuff, to educate myself, and just to do a lot of things. And if I was to have handouts and be dependent, I would not be able to go to where I need to be or be where I was at. Because coming up, I'm thinking, yeah, we all need handouts and this and that. No, that's where we're wrong. That's where a lot of people fail at. So it's like I see it as, say if you have a kid acting up, wilding out, going crazy. If you don't discipline that kid, the kid is going to forever do that. Or say if you give a kid forever, just keep feeding them candy just to shut up, he's just going to shut up just for the candy, and he's really not going to know what to do in life unless he has them circumstances. So it's so the Democratic Party is kind of like, don't get me wrong, I get it, you know what I'm saying, I get it, but at other times it's kind of like, hey, we need to really depend on ourselves instead of always having a government to depend on. So that's where I actually see and believe where a lot of Black men, not even just men, also women, are becoming Republicans too as well, because the Republican Party, a lot of times people think racism and all that stuff. It's on both. It's on both. Let's be real. It's on both sides. But the Republican Party offer more of a self of really being you and being a better person. You know what I'm saying?
The idea of me being a Republican is being self-sufficient.
Exactly.
Having the ability, instead of becoming a worker, becoming a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing I admire about you, Marcus. I do want to highlight the fact that I've watched Marcus throughout the years. I believe you worked at, was it UPS?
FedEx.
FedEx. You worked at FedEx for some years, and I watched you. You would hustle long weeks.
Yeah.
And, you've been pushing this dream for this studio for years, and it's so nice. Marcus has moved into this studio here, and this is Kenwood Town Center, and it is a remarkable studio. And Marcus is just a hardworking person, and it just tickles me pink to have him invite me on here, wanting to talk politics, and as a Republican to Republican talking about why we're Republicans, because I wasn't born a Republican either. You might think, oh, I'm a white conservative now, I must have been born a certain way.
Oh, nah,
But,
yeah.
When I was in high school, I bought into a lot of the liberal talk because it ultimately comes down to caring about people is the message they give.
Yeah,
And I resonate with that.
Exactly.
But what you learn as you grow older and you start paying taxes, and then you get a job and you start paying for health insurance, and then it starts adding up, and it's 1/3 of your income.
Listen to this, y'all.
So all of a sudden, you start realizing all these things the government's emptying my pockets for, and then there's homeless people everywhere. The streets are dirty, bridges are falling apart, airports are looking not great. And you wonder, where's all this money going? I'd rather, there's a push right now in the Ohio House to remove the income tax. I'm 100% for it. Let's get like Florida. Let's drop the income tax. Let's let business owners have the money so they can reinvest and their businesses grow and
grow
hire. Let's help more people become business owners. One of the talks in the Republican caucus, not super recent, but recent, is about the prevailing wage and being awarded government contracts. Right now, I believe the threshold is just $250,000. If a government entity, a body, is bidding for some construction work to be done, say it's the city of Loveland or the city of Milford, if it's over $250,000 in cost, it has to be done with a company paying the prevailing wage, which is a Democrat policy, which sounds great. But all that's happened since then is there's 2 or 3 huge mega companies making all the money and not doing great for their employees or paying them well. And small companies can't compete because they can't pay the prevailing wage. But my contention is all these prevailing wage workers should start their own businesses, and they'd make more money than they do on the prevailing wage if they could bid and win the jobs for themselves. I think we need to quit having a work for someone mindset, and this country needs to change their mindset into I can own my own business. There's a record number of small businesses, I believe, opened last year. I think that's because of this awakening. I think 2020 was a big awakening for people that working for, somebody else can really not work out for you. If all of a sudden a pandemic hits and they just lay you off, you need to build some wealth and build a stockpile.
Exactly. And we're here for bigger things than that, than to just to work for somebody. And we all blessed with multiple talents and multiple skills. And it's like we can't really focus on that because we're too busy having to work, having to pay taxes. It's to the point that nowadays you can't survive with one job.
And I'll say this. To anyone who works 9 to 5, I'm not hating or saying, oh, that's not honorable.
Nothing wrong with that.
I just think there's lots of issues with the employment system in America. My background and my business degree is in human resources, so I've studied it a lot. But, America has some very unique employment laws. I think we need more 1099 contractors and less W-2 employees. I just think there's a lot more tax benefits to being a business owner than to being a W-2 paid citizen that most people don't get taught about. They don't teach about it in high school. They teach about it lightly in college if you pick the right classes.
Yeah, definitely.
But even in the light level business classes, it's not taught. It's almost like the society doesn't want people to become independent. They want people to become dependent, and especially Black Americans for so many years. And the Democrats have used different things. George Floyd's a hot topic. We were talking about that before we started this podcast, about how, I can't say if that was staged or not. That's kind of, I don't think it was staged. I'm not saying that. But I do think that it was utilized by the media to divide hate between white and Black Americans for political reasons.
Definitely.
Just like the coronavirus was also used and weaponized to,
for control.
Increase the vote by mail by record amounts so that Joe Biden could receive more votes than any president in history. Does anyone believe Joe Biden was that popular that he got more votes than
Obama?
Trump or Obama?
Obama. You're right. I think that was pretty ridiculous. Our condolences to the people, George Floyd's family, and to the COVID victims and stuff. But it was just kind of shady with that stuff. Not really getting into conspiracies and stuff, but it's just like it's crazy how it was just like the perfect timing of a lot of things, and what it seemed like the Democratic Party was ready for something like that. You know what I'm saying? It was
To
just
pounce.
yeah, exactly.
A lot of these rioters that smeared black people, for example, these Black Lives Matter rallies where people were smashing windows, it came out that a lot of it was paid by, operatives of the Democratic Party. The January 6th insurrection, it's came out that FBI operatives were within the crowds and leading them into the building, into the Capitol.
Right.
So we got to be smart. We got to quit letting them divide us. I think if we could ever get smart and come together, white, black, Latino, Asian, all of us, but just against the people that are oppressing us, that don't want to see this country thrive, that don't want to see the great state of Ohio thrive. It's hard to define who they are, but we know who they are.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. See, I say it's not black, it's not white, it's really not the Democrat or Republican. It's about your inner self and your mindset of really wanting self development. Like if you truly want self development and really want better and really want freedom from all this, the taxes and all this stuff, you really have to change your thinking and really search for yourself, and you'll really see that a lot of stuff that you was taught to believe is really not the right thing to believe. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm just telling you there's a lot of ways to find out things and the truth for yourself. Like I said, I was born a Democrat, but then all this stuff I started learning about Democrats and stuff like that, and it was just like, and then I really started focusing on bettering myself and mindset, and I started really finding out like a lot of the stuff that I believe in kind of opposed with the Republican Party because they're more focused on don't depend on the government, you depend on yourself, learn some skills, and just be a good person. Like, yeah, Democrats, there's nothing wrong with them. They do the same thing, but it's just in a different way of having the way they put you in a position to depend. And if you really want self-development, you got to realize you can't really depend on everybody. Even if, like, nowadays you're grown, you really can't depend on your boss, you can't depend on your worker, you can't even depend on your lover sometimes. So